What's going on, guys? So Apple's iPad Magic Keyboard has been out for a few weeks now, and I thought I'd offer my thoughts on what has been the most anticipated accessory for the iPad Pro. The Magic Keyboard has been a bit difficult to come by for some, with many online retailers like Amazon showing no more stock. I was lucky enough to find one in stock in my area. Had to drive a ways to pick it up, but it was nice to get out of the house for a bit with everything going on. So starting with build quality, the iPad Magic Keyboard feels sturdy enough, it looks decent, but the material is a rubbery plastic that has a pretty strong smell initially. It fades in a few days, but it's exactly the type of odor you'd expect from a material like this. There's a debossed Apple logo on the back, and unfortunately with this being the same material the Smart Folio keyboard is made of, I'd expect it to age similarly poorly. Folio reviews showed areas that were shinier than others, where the keyboard was touched the most, and it just looked incredibly weathered after a while. I quickly noticed that the material on this keyboard is also a magnet for dust. At this price point, it would have been much nicer to see Apple use something like leather, at least for the area that covers the back of the iPad. Still, construction is solid as mentioned. The magnets on this thing are very strong, and you won't worry even for a second that the iPad will drop from the case with some kind of accidental tap or anything like that. While you won't get the kind of variety and flexibility of viewing angles that you would on, say, a Surface Pro, I found the angles to be good enough for most situations. In fact, it actually offers very decent lapability. It may not be quite as comfortable as a conventional laptop, but you can type away on that keyboard and swipe away on the iPad without having to think too much about it. I actually really enjoy that the design allows me to easily attach and detach the iPad Pro whenever I want to use it as a more conventional tablet. There's just something about the premium feel of that cool metal touch when handling this thing. Side note on the iPad Pro though, I really wish they used more or better oleophobic coating, as the display is a fingerprint magnet. I've had my Samsung Galaxy S20, for example, for longer, and touch the screen more frequently, but there aren't nearly as many fingerprints. Just a minor gripe with what is an otherwise pretty stellar device. Anyway, as you probably already know, there's a USB-C port on the side of the keyboard for passive charging, which frees up the USB-C port on the iPad Pro to be used for a flash drive or anything else. That USB-C port on the keyboard can only be used for charging though. I use a Samsung Galaxy S20 as my main smartphone, so it's awesome that I only need one USB-C cord to charge both my phone and my iPad Pro. And just in case you're not aware, the camera cutout on the Magic Keyboard does allow you to use it with the 2018 iPad Pros as well, not just this 2020 model. The trackpad absolutely does its job. It's not super tall, which I've seen some complain about, but this is a keyboard for a tablet after all. You get used to this trackpad as fast as you would any other. Plus, you can adjust the trackpad speed if you feel like you're having to reposition your fingers too often. But personally, I'd recommend keeping it at the default setting. There's no row of keys at the top to adjust things like brightness, but it is surprising how fast you get accustomed to typing on this thing, despite how seemingly cramped the keyboard is. You may miss-hit a key here or there, but you get used to it quickly, and typing on it is pleasant enough. Now, the keyboard does drain your battery a tiny bit faster than it otherwise would drain. Nothing too substantial, but of course, the higher you set the keyboard backlighting, the more of a hit it'll take on the battery. If you pretty much only type in a lit environment anyway, like I do, I definitely recommend turning the backlight off to save battery. Just go to Settings, General, Keyboards, Hardware Keyboards, and you'll see a slider for keyboard brightness. And while you're in there, you can also remap some of the keys on the Magic Keyboard if you'd, for example, make more use out of an escape key than the globe one on the bottom left. So once again, Settings, General, Keyboards, Hardware Keyboards, and then you want to go to Modifier Keys. So the ultimate question, is the Apple iPad Magic Keyboard worth it? Listen, there are obviously a ton of variables to that question, and I'd never try to tell people how to spend their money. For me, for the money you spend on the iPad Pro itself plus the keyboard, it would make more sense to get a pretty decently spec'd out laptop instead. If you already have an iPad Pro and you need it to be your one main device, i.e. a laptop replacement, then this is certainly the best keyboard accessory you can get to complete that experience. Keep in mind, this will probably be the most expensive tech accessory you've ever purchased. At least it was for me. Now, only you know if and how the iPad Pro and the Magic Keyboard could fit into your workflow, even if you already have a laptop. For me, the iPad Pro is a companion device to my daily driver, the Microsoft Surface Book, which is my favorite laptop, but I use the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil every day as part of that workflow. The Magic Keyboard, I don't use quite as much, and when I do, it's often just as a stand. However, I know that post-COVID-19 life, I'll be more likely to grab my iPad Pro and its Magic Keyboard on the go than I would my Surface Book because of its fantastic portability. And that's what ultimately pushed me over the edge when deciding whether or not to buy the Magic Keyboard. So, in the end, two things are true about Apple's iPad Magic Keyboard. One, at $300 for the 11-inch model and $350 for the 12.9-inch version, it's overpriced for what you're getting for the reasons mentioned before. But, and this is what brings me to number two, it is the best keyboard/case accessory you can currently find for the iPad Pro. That doesn't mean it's your only choice. If you don't have to have the very best keyboard accessory, there are other more appropriately priced options that will do the job. But I'll close with this. If you plan to type on your iPad Pro every day or almost every day, the iPad Magic Keyboard will ultimately offer the best experience. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, as I do genuinely try to read them all. And depending on just how many there are, I may even do a follow-up video answering your questions. Also, I'll be doing a video showing how I use the iPad Pro with an Android phone, namely that Galaxy S20 I mentioned. So if you want to be notified when that's out, go ahead and subscribe. That's it for this one, guys. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.